Chris, I really appreciate that powerful talk you just gave. It's kind of a strange transition, not only to be talking about a natural resource topic, but also I'm not going to talk exactly about what Senator Stinnett just said. So I'm going to be talking about fishing. So yeah. So anyway, and I appreciate Jay sort of setting up the local context here of the valley. How many of you are from the Bigwood River Valley? So a few of you. Well, hopefully, what I have to say is, for the people who live here, I hope you appreciate it, and those of you who are not from here, maybe there's some messages you can take home. As many of you know, over the last couple of years, a group of local partners, including Trout Unlimited, the Sun Valley Institute on Resilience, the Wood River Land Trust, Will Miller, the Nature Conservancy, the Blaine County Recreation District, and other partners have proposed a large-scale restoration project that would restore 7 reaches of the Bigwood River to a more naturally functioning condition. And the project has several goals, one of the main ones being to improve the fishing on the Bigwood River. Maybe that will help reduce some stress for folks. But it also will help reduce flood hazard, reduce sedimentation, and reduce severe bank erosion. So about 3 months ago, the partners in the project approached the College of Natural Resources, wanting to know more about what would be the economic effects of such a restoration project on the valley, and specifically looking to try to start a conversation in the valley about about the effects, and also to talk to potential funders about what those effects would be. So they asked us to put together some estimates rather quickly without collecting any new primary data, using existing information about the river, the project, the fishery, anglers, and the local economy. So I've put together what I call a rapid assessment to inform the discussion about the project. So the numbers you see today are preliminary, but they're our best estimate given what we know to date and for the effects that we've looked at so far. So what are the effects of a restoration project? We are looking specifically at 3 different types of effects as we move from a degraded river condition to a restored or enhanced river condition. And first are those near-term impacts to the local economy that result from the expenditures on the construction or restoration activities themselves. Then there are the longer-term impacts that result from the improved conditions in the river and we're specifically looking at the increased recreational use of the enhanced fishery. And then there are the economic benefits that result from the restored ecosystem, such as the reduced flood risk, improved water quality, improved fish habitat, and other increased recreational opportunities. And notice that I've been very specific in calling one type of economic effect an impact and the other a benefit. And this is intentional because in the world of economics, these are 2 concepts and words, and I use them. They have different meanings and are measured differently. I am an academic, so I have to have one economic graph, but I promise this is it. The idea of economic benefit comes out of the world of public sector benefit cost analysis, where we're concerned about efficiency and gains to society from investment of public dollars into public resources. And the Bigwood River is a public resource, and its fish are too. So benefit, the idea of benefit is really focused on the consumer. What does the angler gain from a better fishery? What do property owners and the public at large gain from less flood risk? What does society gain from having better water quality? So this figure is just an illustration of what happens when we restore a river and improve the quality of the fishery. More of the resource will be demanded, that is, more fishing, and it creates an increase in benefit to anglers. Economic impact comes out of a whole different part of economics. Impacts are really focused on the producers, the folks who supply goods and services in an economy. So how does spending by consumers affect the amount of production and the producers in that region? And an economic impact simply measures the net change to an economy that can be attributed to particular activity. So in this case, restoring the river. And impacts are measured by something called input-output models that quantify interdependencies between various producers and consumers in a regional economy. You've probably all heard the term multipliers. Well, the magnitude of impacts are determined by expenditure patterns within the economy, how expenditures circulate through an economy, and then how quickly they leak out of the economy. So sort of at the heart of our model for both benefits and impacts depends on how anglers respond to an improved fishery. In our model, as a result of restoration, anglers go fishing more. They spend more days out fishing. So using some local data from the Idaho Department of Fish and Game, we think people spend about 31,000 days right now fishing on the river. So with an improved fishery, we assume that an increase of about 1.5 times that over a 15-year time period as the fishery recovers, and then it stays there for at least 5 years. So this is a simple response function in the model right now. We know there's annual variation in angler effort based on weather conditions, on water in the river that year, but we just wanted to show a simple upward trajectory. And as we understand more about angler response, we can make adjustments, show variation, and show in potential increase. The other thing that's important from the perspective of economic impact is that we're estimating that about 80% of anglers come from outside Blaine County. And it's important because non-residents or those represent new money coming into the community, and that's what drives economic impact. So let's talk about some of those, the impact side first, and look at the near-term impact of spending on the restoration treatment themselves. Project partners estimate that the total cost of the project is going to be around $15 million and take several years to complete. So for simplicity, we divided it into 5 years at $3 million each year. Then we broke it down just into 4 categories or economic sectors because different types of activities have different effects on the economy. We used a simple 4-sector model. Environmental services, things like the environmental studies that have to go in to determine what treatments are appropriate. Engineering services, designing those treatments. The construction, actually moving dirt and rocks and tree roots and other things. And then the administration that oversees and monitors the project. So in our model, we were looking just at Blaine County. We used IMPLAN, which is a common impact model used throughout the United States. So in the model, again, it's just spending that will be spent in the county. So of that $3 million, we just estimated that about 2.3 would be spent annually in Blaine County. So what are those near-term impacts? There are 4 common measures that people use to measure impacts. I don't have time to go through all of them, but the one that people are typically most often most interested in is jobs. How many additional jobs on an annual basis will that output create? And in this case, we're estimating about 24 jobs. And then the measure that's probably most appropriate is what's called value added. That really is the most comprehensive measure of new money that comes into the region. It includes employee salaries and wages and benefits, proprietor income, corporate profit, and taxes. So we're estimating about $1.6 million for each of those 5 years. The important thing to note about these short-term benefits is that they're only here, that money is only coming in as long as the project is under construction. So let's talk about the long-term impacts from that increased use of the fishery by anglers. And in this case, we're only looking at anglers who are not residents of Blaine County because they're the ones bringing new money into the community. Again, how much do they spend? We use some data from Idaho Fish and Game, and we estimate currently they're spending about $4.2 million. And over the course of the restoration project and river recovery, another $2 million added to that each year. So what are the current economic impacts? In Blaine County, we think there are about 56 jobs supported by fishing on the Big Wood River and bringing in about $2.5 billion in value added to the county. Long term, we see that growing to about 26 jobs added in years further out, and an additional 1.2 million annually. So talk about benefit for a minute. What's the increase to the benefit to anglers? To estimate that value, we have to know how many, what's the increase in angler days, but also know how much an angler values a day of fishing. And there aren't any studies in the Big Wood River Valley about how much an angler benefits from a day of fishing. So to get that, we use something called benefits transfer methodology, which basically means we look at values developed at other sites and with similar fishery and angler characteristics and apply them to our site. And so in our model, we chose two values, one high and one low, just to give us a range. $34 a day comes from a recent study on trout anglers in streams in central Idaho, and then the $113 comes from a study done on the Henry's Fork of the Snake River. So we could spend a lot of time talking about, the difference between anglers on the Big Wood and anglers other places, but we think it just gives us just approximation. Benefits accrue over time, and because they occur in the future, we show them discounted in net present value. We could spend a lot of time talking about net present value and what's appropriate to use, but again, the bottom line is somewhere between $3 and $22 million, depending on the high or low estimate and the discount rate used. Well, how do we judge whether the benefits of the restoration project make it a good use of public or private resources? Well, the traditional sort of look in public benefit cost analysis suggests that perhaps this project is a good use of resources, at least under the high estimate with a lower discount rate. Just the benefit of the improved recreational fishery alone outweighs the cost of restoration. But I would also say that we only projected out 20 years, and those benefits are likely to continue beyond that. But I think it's even more important to note that our estimate of benefit looks only at one result of restoration, improved fishing. People benefit from the river for lots of other reasons. Just the project outcomes are reduced flood risk, improved water quality, and aesthetic impact that affects real estate values. And all those things can be measured and weighed against project cost. As well as we think about value and think about benefits, there are things that we get benefits from having options in the future. We get benefit from not using things. Just simply knowing that the Big Wood River exists in a good condition. So we've only scratched the surface by looking at benefits of recreational fishing. So Zach, who's going to follow me, is really going to talk about. He comes at it from an investment point of view of looking at restoration. And, how do we begin to capture some of those benefits through investment mechanisms? So, thank you very much.